The Start Korean War stretched way back from the start of the 20th century, when Japan occupied the Korean peninsula from 1910 to 1945. After the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombings, Japan surrendered from World War II in September 2, 1945, and Korea was split into two factions, one belonging to the USSR and the other to the USA. The two regions were separated by a line called the 38th parallel, a demilitarized zone that separates the peninsula into two.
2 years later, Harry Truman, President of the United States, announced the Truman Doctrine, a plan to fight communism which was supported by the USSR. The doctrine suggested any settlements claimed by Stalin, leader of the Soviet Union, were to be seized to end harsh dictatorships still occurring around the world. North and South Korea, two separate territories sponsored by the two powers of the Cold War, remained hostile towards each other. At the front, soldiers had to guard the 38th parallel to prepare defense for any surprise attacks from the north.
With consent from the USSR, the North fought below the borders in June 1950 and went for Seoul, the capital city of South Korea, located just below the 38th parallel. The South Korean army was too weak and had to give up Seoul to the hands of the communists. In response, the Southern Army, led by General Douglas MacArthur, pushed back the northern troops towards the 38th parallel, reclaiming Seoul. 12 days later, on 27 September 1950, Truman authorized pursuit to the north, and the combined forces of US and South Korean forces crossed the border towards North Korea. They managed to occupy Pyongyang, the capital of North Korea, on October 19 the same year.
A week later, Chinese armies entered the war to help their fellow communists, supplied with manpower and resources. The combined northern forces pushed back towards the 38th parallel. The American poet Robert Frost once said, "Good fences make good neighbors."
Well, in this case, he would have been wrong. North and South Korea were not too keen on accepting the new line drawn in the sand, and skirmishes between the new neighbors often flared up along the border.
We are united in detesting communist slavery.
From then on, the border stabilized around that area and only static conflicts occurred.
In 1951, an armistice was negotiated, but both sides never managed to reach an agreement, and the border became a demilitarized zone supervised by the United Nations.
However, the dreading conflict and aftermath of the Korean War is not to be forgotten. Soldiers had to survive the extreme climate just to fight for the border, not to mention the disease, malnutrition, and frostbite that they had to go through pre-war era. Though most soldiers were sent back to their home countries, the damage has been done, and what for? The war didn't result into a peaceful agreement, just a mere empty yard distancing one another. Is war ever the answer?